We're going to go through the last three pieces dealing with this project. What I have on my screen is, if you didn't watch the previous parts, how my numbers have not been deleted from the SRS or the stratified. I didn't sort through eyewear, and my clusters. My cluster is not separated by birth month. Well, anyway, so realize that mine will look different than yours because it is expected that you've already gone through and condensed yours appropriately down to 30 surveys. At the bottom of the SRS tab of your project, you have the lower limit, the upper limit, midpoints, frequency. I want this to go just like your 2.1 homework, where you have formulas in here, and I've got 6 classes ready for you. You can see the directions off to the side. And all right, let's go to stratified. So here's what I want for stratified. The project says, let's use your stratified sample to determine, or to make a pie chart for whether students ate breakfast or not. So I'm going to clear the columns A, B, and C. I'm just going to select them and then click backspace. So select, click backspace, everything except eyewear and breakfast. Then I'm going to have, I'm going to go over to, I'll start an A4. I'm going to give it a title. I want to count the numbers of yes and no. And I'm going to use this formula countif. And I want the computer to count whether it's a yes or a no. So for breakfast, it's in column F. So I could either click and drag, or I can just type F2 to F31, comma, and because I want it to read a text, I want it to read all the yeses. And it counts. Again, realize my value will be different than your value because I'm assuming you've already done the stratified piece to this. So don't do the autofill. You're also going to have it count, so count if. You do the same range, and we want to count the number of no's. Once you have that, then we're going to select the yes, no, and the numbers that pop out. We're going to insert a chart, and we want a pie chart. So if pie chart is not selected, if pie chart is not selected, you can click on chart type and find pie chart along the way. I want you to click on customize. Let's change the chart title. This is Do Statistics Students Eat Breakfast? And then you can have that as the title. You could either click out of the chart editor here or click somewhere in the spreadsheet and the chart editor goes away. Select and drag the pie chart so that way it's not covering up data. All right, so that is getting a pie chart into our stratified sample for the yeses and nos on eating breakfast. Now going to cluster. Cluster row, or the cluster piece of the project, we want to concentrate on birth and favorite color. All else can be cleared out. So I'm going to just hit backspace on my keyboard. And again, it's assumed that you've already had these sorted and you're down to 30 surveys. I want to start counting. I want the computer to count how many blues there are, how many purples there are, how many pinks there are. I'm going to use this as a guide for what is the next color. So title in D2, and then I'm going to use the countif formula, but I'm not in the F column, I'm now in the G column. So I want the range G2 to G31, and I want it to read any blue text. Your number will be different than my number. Your first color is also probably going to be different. So if your first color popped up and it was pink, then your first word would be pink, and then countif following with the text of pink. And you continue this on. My next favorite color that pops up is purple. So I'm just going to use that as a guide to have the computer count if in the same range we get the word purple. And then my next color that pops up that's different is pink. And I continue this until all the colors that are in my survey, or all the colors that have been selected in this column are done. I'm going to pause and complete this. So with my results, my first 30 surveys actually use all the favorite colors because that's what popped up. You can also check to make sure you have all 30 surveys by doing the sum formula. Oh, I have my 30 sample size. Great. So for a Pareto chart, because that's what we're going to do in the cluster, for a Pareto chart, you're going to do a column graph, column bar graph, and the highest frequency needs to go first and then in descending order. So in my situation, over in the A column and B column, I'm going to just reorder without any formulas. So pink is the highest, and I'm just going to type 11 for mine. And then blue is my second highest. And then I have a tie between purple and red. It does not matter whenever you have a tie, it doesn't matter what goes first and what goes second. So I'm going to pause and finish this out. I'm going to just recheck to make sure that the sum of what I copied down does match 30. Okay, so just to repeat, formulas in E column, but I'm not going to do formulas in my B column. I'm just reordering them. This is going to put my column chart in a good order for the Pareto. All right, select in A2 where you start your colors and you're going to end in B8 or wherever you end. Select, click and drag where your ordered colors with their numbers are. You're going to insert chart, and we need to select a column chart. So if it's not in the suggested, you can find a column chart later if you scroll down. And let's customize, let's give it a title, and favorite colors of statistics students. Once you have that typed in, you can either click out of the editor or click somewhere in the spreadsheet, and then you'll be able to move this to an appropriate spot so that way it's not covering up your data or your progress. Once you're done with that, you're finished with the project. Submit when you're done.